Hi Virgo, this is Tish Aitken, and this is your monthly report for the month of June. We begin the month of June in eclipse season, and that means there are major turning points and revelations and a lot of departures and major beginnings happening in a very short period of time. Eclipses uncover information and make us see things in a way that perhaps we've never seen before, and they wake us up and they induce a lot of change in a very short period of time. You can expect the unexpected with eclipses, kind of like Uranus transits. They're like wild cards. It's going to be a very heightened time of activity and sometimes anxiety, and you'll hear a lot of news from your friends and other people about major changes as well as on the world stage. And in this eclipse season, I feel in particular because as we begin the month of June, there are 4 points transiting in the mutable air sign of Gemini. And Gemini is transiting in your house of career and life goals. And on the 1st of June, there is the North Node of Destiny, Venus, the planet of love and what you value, Mercury, the planet of communication and the ruler of your sign, and the Sun, which is ego and identity, all transiting in your house of life direction. And you add to that fact that there was a lunar eclipse that took place on May 26th in your house of home and family and security at 5 degrees and 27 minutes of the mutable fire sign of Sagittarius. And lunar eclipses bring things to light so that we can process things emotionally, particularly for you in the house of emotions and security. Could have dealt with issues with family, with real estate. Maybe you've been doing work from home. Maybe you're planning on moving or selling your place, but a lot of focus around real estate, your home, and getting your needs met. Not all easy. And perhaps you've been working on a project and it was brought to completion. In the beginning of June, Mercury is retrograde because it retrograded on May 30th at 24 degrees and 43 minutes of the mutable air sign of Gemini. Mercury rules your sign and it rules Gemini. It was out of bounds from May 7th until May 30th, which means it exceeds the sun's declination and sun's path by declination rather, and it gets really out of control. And then now it's retrograde, really giving us a lot of information because it's in Gemini until July 11th. So this gives you an opportunity to really reassess how you can be most productive. You're a very hard-working sign and a very detail-oriented sign, and this reassessment period is an excellent opportunity. Not all easy, there could be delays or glitches, but you can also expect, since we are still in eclipse season, there will be a solar eclipse in your house of career and life goals. Major new beginnings in this area. So whether that means that you need to brush up on things, take some classes, I don't know, whatever it means for you, get back into looking aggressively for a job, or you're a sign that is very good at analyzing what you need to fix or build upon. It doesn't necessarily mean there's something that needs to be fixed. Maybe there's just more you need to do with this. So on June 2nd, Venus exits the sign of exits the sign of Gemini and enters the cardinal water sign of Cancer, where it will be until June 27th. And it's transiting in your house of friends and groups and networking. Now, if you're single, this is an excellent opportunity this summer because you have Venus transiting in your house of friends and networking, but you also have Jupiter, which is the luckiest planet and the grand benefic, transiting in Pisces, which is a sign it rules by ancient astrology. and it entered there on May 13th in your house of partnerships and relationships, and it will remain there until July 29th. This is excellent for you for expanding your contacts, for meeting new people, for good fortune with other people, business relationships, and definitely good for your love life and for your social life. So that's a really nice transit for you. And on June 3rd, we have nice aspects because the Sun in Gemini forms a trine to Saturn, and this occurs at 3:05 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And Saturn is transiting in Aquarius until March 7th of 2023 in your house of work and daily routine. And this is a good energy for you for getting things accomplished with your career, with your habits, if you're trying to initiate new healthy routines, whatever you're trying to achieve. Later that day, Venus forms a beautiful trine to Jupiter at 7:33 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And Venus is transiting in your house of friends and groups, and Jupiter's transiting in your house of relationships. Excellent for your love life, for networking professionally, and for having some fun, hopefully. Then on June 5th, that's more of a day to lay low. At 3:05 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Mercury squares Neptune. Mercury rules your chart as well as your house of career, where all of the planets in Gemini are transiting currently. Neptune's transiting in your house of relationships. Could be misunderstandings at work or in your partnerships. And later that day, Mars opposes Pluto, and that is not an easy energy. That occurs at 3:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and that can be very contentious, and so I would definitely recommend laying low with that. And then on the 10th of June, there is a solar eclipse that takes place at 6:53 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 19 degrees and 47 minutes of the mutable air sign of Gemini. And this eclipse sets off where Neptune was transiting in 2019 and 2020, when it was going back and forth to 19 degrees of the mutable water sign of Pisces. It could bring more things to light, but it also is a big time of new beginnings for you. It's happening in an angular house, in your house of life goals. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend targeting that date to begin something new. Sometimes things come in out of the blue that you definitely should seize. If it's a new opportunity, definitely do so. I know Mercury's retrograde, but maybe there'll be some things you revise afterwards. It doesn't mean you don't take something new. But I would say this is a huge time for you to really focus on what you want to achieve during that time and in this next 6 months with that solar eclipse in your house of life goals, with Mercury there reassessing how you can be more productive, and with the North Node of Karma, which is going to be there until January of next year. Later in the morning at 8:37 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the moon meets up with Mercury and helps to translate more of the information that's going to be pouring out during this eclipse season. And then the moon goes void of course at 1:38 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time with a square to Neptune. And it squares Neptune in your house of relationships. So some things may be a little bit tricky. See if everything is as it appears. Another reason to definitely initiate new things, but wait a bit to see, more in July what's coming in, unless something comes in amazing out of the blue. Definitely don't turn that away. But later in the day at 9:13 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the sun meets up with Mercury and brings more communication. Then on June 11th, Mars enters the fixed fire sign of Leo, where it'll be until July 29th. and it's transiting in your house of dreams and the imagination. This is not the easiest energy for being really, you'll definitely be very busy with all the focus on your house of routine and habits, and with the focus on your house of career and life goals, and that solar eclipse occurring there and Mercury transiting there for more than 2 months. Definitely you're going to be busy, but with Mars transiting in the 12th house, it's urging you also to get enough rest, practice spiritual practice, whatever that might be for you, yoga, meditation, singing, manifesting, just resting a little bit and restoring, because Mars in the 12th house is encouraging you to work with your dreams and to also connect to source and to relax a little bit, which is hard in the time that we're in. And then on June 12th, Venus squares Chiron, the wounded healer. And this can bring issues around pain with friendships, or with just different areas you may feel a little bit off course with, and vulnerability. But later in the day, at 10:38 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on June 12th, or at 1:38 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on June 13th, Venus makes a very helpful trine to Uranus in Taurus. And Uranus is transiting in your house of hope and manifesting and teaching and promotion. And this could be a good energy for you for working with that and finding solutions and also networking. But later that day, the Sun squares Neptune, and that occurs at 7:40 p.m. So maybe more confusion or directionlessness. So it's going to be those few days after the eclipse are tricky. And the following day is another reason that they're tricky, because Saturn, which is the planet of structure and how we anchor our goals, squares Uranus, which is the planet of brilliance and chaos, at 6:01 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Saturn's transiting in your house of work and routine and health and habits, and Uranus is transiting in your house of hope and teaching and promotion. And it could be issues with work, could be that you're feeling like all of us, that Saturn is structuring the chaos of Uranus, and that conflict is not easy to work with, but it'll impel us to move forward in a time that we have no choice, but that can be incredibly innovative and exciting. And it occurs at 13 degrees of the fixed signs, and the fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. And if you have anything at 11 to 15 degrees of those signs, you will feel it the most. But this is the second time the two squared one another in the sky. And that occurred on February 17th, when the big power outage occurred in Texas. And Saturn and Uranus are both the rulers of Aquarius, and we are in this new age of Aquarius. But again, this is the chaos connected with inventing new things in our lives. And then on June 20th, we have two big events happening. Jupiter, the Grand Benefic, which is the planet of optimism and good luck and expansion, stations retrograde at 11:06 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 2 degrees of Pisces. And it retrogrades in your house of relationships and partnerships. You feel that 5 days before and 5 days after. And this is a time of reassessing how you can expand through your relationships. Then later that day, we have the summer solstice, which occurs at 11:32 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And that is when the sun is at its maximum declination in the sky, and it's the longest day of the year in the northern hemisphere, and that begins the summer. And in the southern hemisphere, it's when the sun is at the lowest point and it begins the winter. And it's a time to reflect on what the next few months will be, how you honor that energy. The sun stops to analyze what you want to bring into your life, what you need to work with, and to also honor the summer solstice and have gratitude for all that you do have. And then on June 21st, Venus forms a beautiful trine to Neptune, and Venus is transiting in your house of friends and groups, trining Neptune in your house of relationships. Really nice for social and romantic opportunities, as well as financial. And on the 22nd of June, Mercury stations direct at 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 16 degrees of the mutable air sign of Gemini. And this occurs in your house of career and life goals. Now you have Mercury until July 11th in this house. And again, that big eclipse happened there, bringing in major new beginnings and changes in your life goals and in your career, and perhaps major changes in the direction you're taking. Now you have Mercury in its dignity, helping you to really network and connect and to facilitate your getting new opportunities, because that is a huge focus for you this year and the summer. And then on the 23rd of June, we have kind of a mixed bag. We've got the sun trines Jupiter in the sky, and that's really nice energy. The sun is in Cancer, trining Jupiter in Pisces. The sun will be transiting in your house of friends and groups, and it'll be there until July 20th, and that's also good for your social life, and that's a really optimistic energy. But that's a day that could involve a lot of breakups, because Venus is going to oppose Pluto later in the day, and that could bring power struggles with friendships or romantic situations. So I would say, try to manifest with Jupiter, but know that that's tough energy. And it's the day before the full moon that occurs on June 24th at 2:40 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 3 degrees and 28 minutes of the cardinal Earth sign of Capricorn. And this full moon sets off where the solar eclipse was on December 26, 2019. That eclipse occurred in your house of romance and creativity, and it was at 4 degrees of Cancer. Looking back to that story, maybe you get more information or completion to what you were working with at that time. On the following day, on the 25th of June, Neptune, which is the planet of dreams and deception and spirituality, but also confusion, stations retrograde at 23 degrees of the mutable water sign of Pisces at 3:21 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And Neptune transits in your house of relationships and partnerships. You feel that energy 5 days before, 5 days after. We can expect June to be a lot of activity, very emotional, I feel, because a lot of strong Pisces energy and Neptunian energy. And for you, it's in your house of relationships where both Jupiter and Neptune are transiting. A lot of magic and manifesting available to you as well. Tap into that as much as you can. Focus on your career goals. You have a lot to accomplish with that. And I wish you a lot of luck, Virgo. Thank you.